everyone, this is Legend. I just wanted to do a little bit of a different video today. I kind of wanted to explain how to know when you're going to get the dividend or not. Some people are a little confused about if they buy the stock or ETF at a certain time or date, will they be able to actually receive the dividend or not? So there is rules to that, and platforms could be different as far as the times that you're allowed to trade within. But I use Webull, so I wanted to do it on that, and I am going to also show what is standard throughout all platforms and brokers. So I'm just going to slide right over to the sheet that I created, and it's a little chart, and we'll see what it looks like, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here we are on my spreadsheet that I created. It's going to let you know when you would receive a dividend if you purchase a stock or ETF at a certain time compared to the ex-dividend date. First of all, let's talk about the ex-dividend date. So the ex-dividend date, the general idea of it is you have to own a stock before the ex-dividend date in order to receive a dividend on that particular ETF or stock. So in this case, if we're looking at MSTY and the ex-dividend date is November 21st, even though it doesn't pay out until the 22nd, the ex date is November 21st. That means you have to own the stock at least 1 day before that date in order to receive the dividend. So there are a couple things that could add a little bit of confusion as well, is especially with Webull, now that they are offering the extended hours and the overnight hours. So it is a little confusing to know if the overnight hours or the extended hours, do those fall under that same rule? You know, if you buy it during the extended hours or if you buy it during overnight hours, do you still receive that dividend? So let's just take step by step right here. I have my Legend notes here. This will basically tell us what is going to show up in the chart and what each one means here. So, and I do want to point out as well that not all brokers or trading platforms are the same. The hours of operation and trading available for each broker or platform could be different. So I'm only using Webull here for my example, but if you see right here where it says rule or Webull, if it says rule, that means that's pretty standard throughout all platforms. So if you do this during this time, then no matter what platform you're on, you should be okay. If it states Webull in this column, then I am only stating that if you're using Webull and you're buying during this time, then this is true. You'll have to check your own platform and broker. If you're not using Webull, you should check them to make sure that you have those available extended hours and what the rules are for that as far as in when that executable date comes into play. Is it a T or is it a T+1? T meaning the trade date, and a T+1 would be a trade date plus 1 day. So if a certain position is a trade date is just a T, so therefore if you buy it on that day, it executes and it is yours for that day. But if it is a T+1, that means it will actually not execute until the next day. So if you were to purchase something and it's T+1, it actually will not go through until the next day. Okay, you may have to go back and re-listen to some of this. We're going to cover a lot on this one. So let's just start right out here on this first one. I'm using MSTY, MSTY, as an example, they did just pay out their dividend. And if you didn't see, it is $4.42 per share dividend. And it paid out this past Friday on November 22nd. So a lot of people are very excited about that, super stoked, but you know, that was Friday, but some people are wondering, well, will I receive that dividend or not? So let's look at this. If you were to purchase the stock on November 20th at 9:30 a.m. right here at market open. So at market open on 9:30 on the 20th, it is before the 21st, the 21st being the X date. So anything before the 21st, you will receive the dividend during market hours here. So purchase date 11/20 at 9:30. We have the X date of 11/21. So will we get the dividend? Yes, we will. The next one here, again, this is another rule. So therefore, this is good for all platforms. And I'm going to roll this up just a little bit so it's easier to see. Again, the purchase date 11/20, and this is just before market close. So 3:59 p.m. Market's still open up until 4 o'clock where it closes, and these times are Eastern Standard Times. The ex-dividend date still 11/21. If the payout is still 11/22. So these two will not change throughout the different times that I'm going to show. So this is still just a T, so it trades, so it will execute the day of. Will we receive the dividend for this one? Yes. Yes, we will. So let's move to the next time. Now this one here, I'm calling for Webull because depending on the service that you have, the broker or platform that you're using, may not have extended hours, which means that is the hours or the time after market close. The standard market close at 4 o'clock. The market will be open at 9:30 and runs till 4 p.m. Any time before and after that is extended hours or overnight hours, depending on the time. For this one here, I am only using Webull as the example. You need to check your broker if it is different. Purchase date of 9/20, so it's still that day before ex-dividend, and we are buying it in the extended hours at 4:30. Now the extended hours up here, I'm showing the extended hours run from 4 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. So before market open, and it will run from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., which is after market close. Okay, and that's the extended hours on Webull. So 4:30 will fall between the 4 and the 8 p.m. So that's extended hours. So the question is, even though that is the day, is still 11/20th when we purchased it, and the X date is 11/21, do we get that dividend? Because the market's closed. Will we receive that dividend on the extended hours? Well, let's just see. Yes. Yes, you will. You will receive that dividend even in extended hours on Webull. And again, check your own brokers. But if you're using Webull and you purchase MSTY at 4:30, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, all the way right up before 8 o'clock, right? So at 7:59, if you're buying Webull stock on the 20th, if you would have bought it at 7 o'clock or 7:59 at November 20th, which is still before the 21st, you will receive that dividend of $4.42 for this past dividend payout. Well, let's move on to see what times we have here. So now, again, we just spoke about this one at 7:59 p.m. extended hours, still before the ex-dividend of November 21st, and this is still the purchase date of November 20th, but we are after close of market. It's 7:59 p.m. Okay, we're still in the quote extended hours for Webull. Will we receive that dividend? Well, I kind of already gave that one away. Yes, we will. So let's look at the next time. Now, Webull has just opened and made available overnight hours. Now, overnight hours is up here in my legends and notes. the overnight hours, it starts on Sunday at 8 p.m., okay? From 8 p.m. all the way to Monday at 4 a.m. So that night is the overnight hours for that day, right? And then it goes through Thursday at 8 p.m. to Friday at 4 a.m. So basically, let me explain this a little bit clearer. So Sunday night at 8 p.m., the overnight hours starts, and it goes to Monday at 4 a.m. because right at Monday at 4 a.m., it changes to extended hours, right? Because the one above here is 4 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. is the extended hours. So the overnight hours is 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. And that works for, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right? So Thursday, it goes from 8 p.m. to Friday of 4 a.m. So early Friday morning, the overnight hours goes up to 4 a.m. Then it goes to 4 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. being extended hours. Okay, now we're into extended hours. And then at 9:30 to 4 p.m., that's regular market hours. And then you still have your extended hours from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Friday, okay? But you do not have overnight hours on Friday. So the extended hours ends at 8 p.m. on Friday, and the overnight hours will not be on Friday. It will not start up until Sunday at 8 p.m. Okay? Just wanted to clear that up. Wanted to give you the times, the schedule of that. I thought that was kind of interesting. So, Friday at 8 p.m., there is no more trading on Webull. Okay, so let's go back down here. Just kind of wanted to explain the overnight hours and kind of the layout and the differences between overnight and extended hours in the regular market hours. So now we have Webull again. So this is Webull only platform. It may be your broker, but you'll need to check. Purchase date is still 11/20, so November 20th. We're still before that November 21st ex-dividend date. It's 8 o'clock p.m., so we are in the overnight hours. Okay, so in overnight hours, even though this is 11/20 or November the 20th, the Webull trade date becomes a T+1. Now the T+1, and I may have already explained it earlier, but T+1 means that the trade execute date is the next day. Okay, so if that's the next day, what do you think? Will you receive that dividend? I think I already gave you the answer pretty much on this one as well when I was explaining the T and the T+1. No, you will not. So if you do not own those shares before 8 p.m. on November the 20th for a November 21st ex-dividend date on the platform of Webull, then you will not receive that dividend for the 22nd, if that makes sense. So 7:59 was the extended hours. We do receive that dividend, but when overnight hours starts at 8 p.m. the day before the X date, we will not receive those dividends for that next dividend payout. So let's just move on to the next time, and I think it's going to get easier from here, of course. So it's 11/21, so November the 21st, and it's just before 4 o'clock. We're at 3:59 a.m. We're still in overnight hours, as you've seen up here at the top. The overnight hours is from the 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. Well, 3:59 a.m. is before 4, so therefore we're in overnight hours. We are still at the T+1. Now, the purchase date is November 21st, and the X date being November 21st, I think you're already going to know the answer of that one. Will we receive that dividend? No, of course not. We have to own those shares before the 21st, and if we're purchasing it on the 21st, no matter what time it is, then we will not receive that dividend that pays out on that 22nd. you must own the shares before the 21st. All right, so just for fun, we'll just continue on through here. Webull, again, we are in extended hours because now it's 4 o'clock and 4 or 5 a.m., whichever one, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., all the way up to 9:30 a.m. goes back into the extended hours. We're at T trade date. Okay, but we have to look. We purchased it on the 21st at 4 a.m. in the morning, right? Market has not opened. And the date is the 21st of November. The X date is the 21st of November. Even though we purchased before market open, will we receive that dividend? No, we will not. We must own those shares before the X date. So to close this one off, we've got the last one, November 21st at 9:30 a.m., which is at market open. You know what the answer is on this one. If the market's open on the 21st, the X date is on the 21st, and you have to own it before the 21st, well, will you receive that dividend? Of course not. I'm going to leave this up just for a second. You can screenshot this if you want. If this helps, you can look it over, zoom in as you need be to help be able to understand the timing of when to purchase, and if you've purchased, did you purchase it early enough to receive that dividend or not? So therefore, let's go ahead and scroll down here in the overall summary. So the overall summary is, which is true for all platforms and brokers. In order to be able to receive the dividend, you have to own shares of the stock 1 day before the X date. And I'm calling the X date, X dividend date, it's the same thing. Therefore, shares must be purchased before 4 p.m. the day before the X dividend day. Okay, so this is true for all platforms. So therefore, you must own the shares before the X dividend date. And if the X dividend date here is November 21st, you must own those shares before market close of November 20th in order to receive that dividend. Now that is a true statement for all platforms and brokers. So to be safe, if you own those shares on the 20th of November, then you will receive that dividend as long as you purchase those shares before market close on November 20th. That is a true statement for all brokers. Now for Webull, it adds a little extra time for us. So in Webull, it's the same rule as above here, what we just went over of owning the shares before the X date, but they allow you with the extended hours, you have until 8 p.m. the day before the X dividend date to purchase the stock in order to receive the dividend. So for all brokers, as long as you purchase the stock before market close on the day before the X dividend date, you will receive and be eligible for the dividend. For Webull, they allow the extended hours. So for Webull, you have up until 8 p.m. the day before the X dividend date in order to be eligible for the dividend payout. So in this case, as long as you purchase your shares before 8 p.m., so 7:59 p.m. and before on November 20th, then you will receive or be eligible for the dividend payout because you purchased the shares before the X dividend date of 11/21 or November 21st. I've tried to explain in a few different ways here, and I've tried to pull out the different times that could be confusing, could be a question to people, but I think this is pretty useful. This might help a lot of people understand, if I purchase my shares, will I receive that dividend payout or not? Even on the times per the day before the X dividend date, will I receive my dividend or not? Now, if you purchased after 8 p.m. the day before the ex-dividend date, then you will not receive the dividend for this payout, but you will be eligible for the next payout dividend, as long as you still own the shares at the day of ex-dividend. So if you were to sell your shares the day before the ex-dividend date, so if I sold my shares on November 20th and the ex-dividend date is the 21st of November, I will not receive that dividend payout because you must own the shares at ex-dividend date. So that was another thing I wanted to bring up as well. A lot of times people will sell calls against their shares, and at the day before, or maybe even a few days before, if it gets called away early, right before the ex-dividend date, and if it gets called away on November the 20th, and they take your shares, then you will not receive that dividend, because sometimes they will exercise those options early because they want that dividend that's coming up that next day. But they know that in order to be able to receive that dividend, they must own those shares before the ex-dividend date. So sometimes options get exercised early in order for them to be able to own those shares on the day of the ex-dividend date. All right, so I think I've explained pretty well on this. It is a lot to take in. You may have to scroll back and watch a few clips of this and watch different sections of it over. I think it's pretty easy to see how and when you would actually get your dividend if you purchased your shares at a certain date or time. So again, take a screenshot of this if need be, and you can look over it. If you have questions or concerns or other things that you may have questions about, put them in the comments. Let me know. We can see if we can answer those questions for you, or maybe you have a different question as far as in timing, or as far as in the platform itself. You may have to reach out to your broker to see how they handle any kind of extended hours and market hours or after hours. But as far as in the market hours, that's straightforward. That is good for all platforms. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. I appreciate everybody for taking the time to listen and to watch. Again, rewatch a few times. You may have to watch it a couple times just to really get the handle of this. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, as there are a lot of people out there who are not quite understanding exactly when and how do they know when they get paid that dividend. So as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, legend out.